Hi, everybody. Welcome. How are you all? Good? Okay. Can you hear me okay? Great. It sounds loud. It's nice to have folks here. It really feels really good to have people coming back to the Poetry Center for poetry readings. So thanks for doing this. We, of course, had the break during the summer. July happened to all of us. But it's really nice to be here in August and to have poets back in this place. And it's so exciting to have Angel Dominguez here, who's been our summer poet in residence, and their presence has been beautiful and enlarging and lots of great conversations. And we're so excited about Angel's presence in this reading tonight. So more to come. I'm Tyler Meyer. I work here as the director at the Poetry Center. I'm going to just tell you about a couple things coming up really quickly at the Poetry Center in the near term with our calendar, and hint that the fall calendar for the Poetry Center in the fall season is imminent, and so that calendar will be in the mail very, very soon. If you're not on our mailing list and would like to be, just on the other side of this wall, there's a place where you can leave contact information, and we will put you on our mailing list. We send beautiful and benign emails that you can delete if you don't want. And then there are things for your to post up on your fridge, on your bulletin boards that tell you all the things that are happening, so you can be in the loop about readings that are coming up at the Poetry Center. We are supporting something right now called the Seeley Challenge. Is anybody reading for the Seeley Challenge right now? Some of you are. Good. Does anybody not know what the Seeley Challenge is? Some of you don't. Okay. I'll just very quickly say it's a challenge to read a book of poems every day for the month of August. Which sounds like a lot, but you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. And you're lucky that you live in a city that has a giant poetry center, and which is all the books are there. So if you missed this earlier on in August and are interested and want to do it, you still have time. You can jump right in. And I promise it'll change your brain. It's an amazing thing to put that much poetry in one place over 31 days. So come join us. It'll be a lot of fun. There's some programs happening around that that you can learn about on the current calendar. I won't mention those right now, but that is also around the corner if you want to pick that up. The last summer social, we have a series of summer socials in the summer. On August 23rd, there's an event at Hotel Congress in the Copper Room, and that features the writer Gretchen Henderson, and she'll be launching her new book, which is called Life in the Tar Seeps, and it's a book about environmental catastrophe and also the resilience of creativity and thinking about the interactions between those two things. And Gretchen's a beautiful thinker, and that'll be a lot of fun. She'll be talking about that book and the work that she does generally around those intersections. There's a great new exhibit at the Poetry Center called Big Books, and it is indeed big books. They're oversized editions, collections, and that is up right now. The center is open during the summer, Tuesday through Friday, 9 to 5. We'll soon switch back over to our Saturday hours when school year starts, so at the end of the month. And so come visit that exhibit. It's delightful. They're monstrous and beautiful in all of their large and largesse. I want to say we had a small miscommunication with the bookstore, and they had the books that we had ordered for this reading are not here tonight. So it is incumbent upon you to go find Angel's books and to buy them. And Angel will be around, and so there may be a chance even to get them signed later. But please help us support Angel's work. And you're gonna hear this and be excited about these books immediately. And so I encourage you to seek them out. Make sure you're purchasing them and enjoying them. And I think Angel's gonna read from existing work, but also some new things and talk a little bit about work that's upcoming. I will stop there. It's my pleasure to welcome up the introducer for tonight, and that is a great friend of the Poetry Center, a colleague, a great friend of mine, Fareed Matuk, wonderful poet here in Tucson, treasured colleague, a translator and a poet who teaches in the creative writing programs. Please help me welcome Fareed Matuk to come introduce Angel. Thank you.
Hey everybody, I want to really start by thanking the Poetry Center, its staff and donors for making the summer residency program possible. I know that the gift of uninterrupted time doubles back to us in the form of art and all the possibility that art opens. It's my great honor to welcome to Tucson my friend Angel Dominguez. Angel is a Latinx poet and artist of Yucatec Maya descent, born in Hollywood and raised by their immigrant family in Van Nuys, California. They're the author of Desgraciado, the collected letters that came out from Nightboat Books in 2022. as well as the author of the poetry collections RoseSunWater and Black Lavender Milk. You can find Angel's words online and in print in various publications, including Bomb Magazine, the Berkeley Poetry Review, Fence, Prolit Magazine, SFMOMA's Open Space, and elsewhere. But to really try to do my job here and make way for Angel, what I want to remind us of is that there are friends we meet, if we're lucky, whose resonance tilts the whole universe. I met Angel in 2014 when my partner Susan Briante and I got to co-teach a workshop at Naropa University's summer writing program. I clearly remember at least 2 moments that summer when I looked into Angel's eyes and experienced a sudden expansion of my awareness where I could almost feel other points in the space-time matrix hover around my head. Points where Angel and I had been, one day will be. The effect is like thinking you're educated and knowing that the Earth revolves around the sun, but then seeing the animated graphic that shows the sun itself orbits the Milky Way, that the planet's elliptical orbits are in fact dynamic spirals, and that the whole menagerie is cast out in a trajectory that always eventually doubles back. The discipline of literature can make art feel as static as that old model of the solar system. But Angel sets us in motion through lyric, epistolary, and narrative forms. Across those modes, Angel's work travels tonal registers with associative lyrics that can articulate irreconcilable mystery, while in other moments, their work can speak almost against lyric, with a clarity and brevity that can deliver what Bruce Lee called the one-inch punch. And Angel's work spirals through space-time off the page as well, expanding into performance art, ritual, and songwriting. Taken together, the ways Angel's work orients me to the spiraling universe makes me think we won't just write our way out of this era of global boiling, as the UN has called it. Angel's work makes me think that the book might matter a little less than the social relations and rituals around the book. In other words, it's 2023. Aliens are real. Gender is not. Fascism is real. Money is not. And yet somehow we're still taking turns standing behind a podium? Instead, Angel helps us dream of gathering around a border patrol or police station, for instance. Reading poems that might help state agents realize property and borders are far less real than the resonance of word and body, time and space. Please welcome Angel Dominguez.
I am so small. I'm so grateful for that intro. I'm so grateful for Tucson, the Poetry Center, for poetry. As Fareed was speaking, this beautiful beetle just landed on my shoulder. And I have to share with you, I was actually terrified of that beetle when I was a child. But there's something different. Perhaps it's the desert. Perhaps it's the monsoon that arrived as Tyler and Paola left me in the apartment. Perhaps it's time to read to you all. I'm going to be reading from all of my works, including a book that I said I would never read from again, called Black Lavender Milk, which started this whole thing. I'll also be reading new work because the moon has a lot to say to you. And last night I took dictation. I don't know how to explain to you all what it means to be a poet in the world. I don't know how to explain to you all what it means to have this time and space to work on new work, to work on being alive, to build a future together. This is Black Lavender Milk. Do you want to remember your dreams? Pour a glass of water at night. Drink half the glass before bed, and remember to drink the other half upon waking. The moment our deep star touches your skin and kindles you to flame, you are a magus. You are a form of water. You are a lot of language. You are blood and salt. Pour the glass of water from the sunset, from the faucet, from your dream breath. Put a palmful of water to your lips and try to remember why we sleep, why we dream, that we may pass through a portal without shape and awaken elsewhere, older, here now. Go to bed before you read this book. Carry it with you and do not read it. You are sure to remember if you follow this. Gather your sleep, strung together with water, cupped by tongue sound. Say it with me now. How will I know to meet you when I arrive? Sigh a breath to your left and make sure you've kept a pocket of stones and sand. The sound of ocean water weighs gravity when marked upon the body, doubling seasons. Stretch time to fit what you remember. Meet me in the orchard or airport. Vestibule A, Appendix 1. I write the book before falling apart. I fall with the pages. I sway with the dirt. I coddle the failure until it's become a bird, until it crashes in a field, until it's become erased, until it becomes until. These sentences are creaking with the way they hold water, the weight dispersed between the book and the body holding the book. I build a tension to let go. I forget how we approach writing and start with what's missing. I get lost. I tell no one. I let the book sink until it is another form of emptiness. I'm more interested in its lack. The scene erodes with a violet fragility. I soak in a bath of rose petals. The water goes from pink to dark bruise. I lose track of the continent I'm writing in. I forget the frame of the novel. The language grows wild. I give up haunting all my failures. I work them into my skin like a poem. I burn the book so many times. The manuscript exists as a form of condensation. The sky opens up and pours out another book that you'll never read. I wish I could still speak it. I wish I could remember what we say. And every yesterday piles itself into a dendritic agate pose. In repose, the novel writes itself into my sleep. I dream of many airports, but never of a plane. I say the word sky and the window becomes a door frame. I don't have the strength to pick up the phone. The book is dead and I'm dragging its entrails across a continent, and I smash the book against my face and I weep when I can't read the words. Our longing is our legitimacy. That's what Cecilia Vicuña told me, documenting detritus from a summer Creekside performance. Several people die in the writing of this novel, or they died while the novel is being written. I lack a language to communicate. I wish I could tell you the color and breath of a flower. I wish I could explain lavender to you. I make a dark midnight from the sound of my living. I boil water and shed from stress. Infinite realities blurring. In one, I am 2 centimeters to my left. Nothing comes together and all archival components fail. I forget what I'm talking to you about. The book stops writing and the dreaming feels further away. I interrupt myself with living. I have visions of bodies on beaches holding flares. It's sunset. But that's not important. When the book is not happening, I find lost time trickling in through my wrist. I resist the urge to be specific. I dream the novel upon landing, the novel that was never a novel but an orchard. The manuscript was always just a hole in the ground. The sun snows until rain overtakes the creek in a flood. I abandon the book under the cover of escape. I make my way, sniffing the lilt sky for signs of light. A dim become bright. The language exhausts itself in the repetition of thinking. Before reading, you should know, I thought of all these words for weeks and pages and planes and places until I could finally open my mouth. But something like flowers comes out. Something like a thick light of lavender milk. I am dreaming right now. We burrow home into our blood. In the house of your heart, you start a small fire to bring back with you. The continent rains for 10,000 days, and nothing ever gets done. The book grows roots in a glass of water. The somnambulist drinks nothing but light and wine. Grass grows thick in the cottage of your liver, and you try to drown the weeds out with color. You saturate the rhythms of your blood until there is continuity. Like veins, you recall becoming a river. You recall swimming against the current until there was no strength left in you, and the river drowned in your memory. You wake up 6 months later, find yourself still grieving the site of where your paw marked a grave. You read the language but don't understand. You make the gestures, but the movement is all wrong. You stop writing. I forget how to write and give up before the book is written. Your hand touches a semblance of time. You remember the scent of 3 a.m., locate the ocean within your tongue. I keep writing through exhaustion until I write something else instead. I wake up with a sprig of sun stuck in my lungs. I cough lavender and form visions of the obstruction. I try to remember my dreams, but often I remember a big black nothing, the lack of image, the unconscious meandering void. It's several days until I am finally able to bring myself back to myself, to write anything down. The dream falls through the window and pollen corrupts it. My eyes grow red and heavy light waves. The blood thickens, my lips become dry. In the daylight that presents itself beyond us, there is the inevitable. We try our best to hold on to the hope of it. I retrieve the semblance of a dream and ruin my skin with sunlight. Sometimes we are flying over the moon and its desert. This flight is as long as you want it to be. And I'm not reading any more of that. So that book is dedicated to my grandfather, Jose Asuncion Dominguez. I knew him as Shishan. I knew him as Shish. So when you read this book and you see XIX, it is not 19. It is my grandfather's name, his Yucatec Maya name. When I was born, he called me his Shish. And Shish, I later learned, means residue. He explained it to me as being the last little drop of tea. And when I was a baby, before I could speak any language, I said Shishan, and that meant you are also Shish. I'm going to read a little bit from RoseSunWater, which came out with the operating system during the pandemic. And this is a book in so many ways about gentrification, about losing my grandmother's home to capitalism, to the gentrifying landscape of the San Fernando Valley, which you would recognize if I called Los Angeles, right? But tonight, it's not Los Angeles. It's Van Nuys. Van Nuys is the city where I was raised. It's the 818. And I'm going to read to you a piece that means everything to me because it is a piece of myth-making. And this is called a cenote blossoms in Van Nuys, California. A family of immigrants moves to the valley beyond the city. The home they find is without any record of city planning and was built in 1906 when a train still ran through this town. This house becomes a home. This home becomes a type of field or portal. They plant fruit trees from seed. Twin aguacates from the Yucatan take 2 decades to become a myth. The children's children become a new distance. The gardenias blossom and levitate. The pitaya blossoms a palm tree to grow upon. The lemon trees talk to one another through the night. The oranges grow less sour with every handful of salt buried beneath them. New trees are planted. Many spirits leave their bodies before these words are ever written. They live with us, and when you speak their names aloud, they know you better. The concrete Virgen grows roses out of nothing to watch over outside the kitchen. The mulberry tree plants legends in the heart of the nearby inhabitants before bowing, before the chainsaw. Later, a mango tree grows up to tell the story of these mysterious berries that had no name until Colorado dropped Mayatan words into a somnambulist ear. Years later, this memory would come across as orange in its summer atmosphere, orange and creek sound and so small. The chaya emerges to nourish the keeper de la huerta antes que the house dissolves, and the somnambulist calls the house a home, an orchard, because the trees allowed them to blossom and become this after-image beyond the city. The city becomes something else around the orchard. The city begins to punch holes in everyone's memory, demanding the inhabitants adapt to the ongoing evasion of everywhere else wanting to be where they are not. A sickness that spread to the somnambulist, the hunger for departure, thirsty for a transit fix, all of it imaginary, none of it real. The veins of light that become asphalt by day were a kind of comfort now grown strange. The truth is a spiral, an ongoing descent through cycles. Each return to origin allows a further vertical distance in memory. I sow this now to yours as you read this, and we become cross-stitched and bound to one another. The city continues humming within the body despite all the silence surrounding the somnambulist. Our blood is always buzzing. The house is going to be destroyed before this book is ever finished. There is nothing to do but bloom this net of neurons and temporality, and sometimes you have to rebuild the structures within your body again and 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 again. I remember that I do not remember. The rain comes down in thick brushstrokes of spectral pigments, piles of color growing thick with movement. The trees, they dance, they twirl. I build a house in the dead-end housing complex of my heart. The rent is cheap enough to live, and every tenant is on a second chance account of some kind, my heart included. I tried to build the square footage into my organs. I keep trying to form a floor plan out of memory. Every time I touched my hands to those walls, feet to the floors, I am trying to remember a feeling beyond the ruin to come. There will be no pyramid. There will be no archive. Our home will become the shape of an overpriced future I can't afford. And I hope every tenant's aguacates rot before they can use them. I build a roof above a dream I've yet to have. The empty chairs, they manifest spirits and ancestors, and we're all moving out of here before it's too late. Dear Rose, I want you to be sun, become water. I want to save the house, save the city, save the sea, and still I can't. All I can do is hold them together in my memory, piling all this language next to me, counting the containers and measuring their weight. And is this sentence a year yet, or does anyone ever really die? Did we ever exist at all? Under the blue flower Scorpio moon, I dream of more time with the lemon trees. I dream of the aguacates teaching me everything they know about growing and freedom. I learn to become the house and begin to build one in the heart of my heart. I forgot to take a brick. Wanted the memory to stick more than a maybe. I tried to make a talisman out of the tragedy. The angels' trumpets levitate and face the sky when I return to the house in dreams. It seems the structure continues to grow older in the imaginary, which may be an entangled dream or another thing happening elsewhere where our house survives. I don't assume to know the finer details of the holographic universe. I feel it sometimes and can't language fast enough to render it real. We remain parallel, never touching. And yet, is that not a form of touch? Is touch not the repulsion of electrons, atoms hovering like star systems, becoming a type of distance that communicates nearness, the impossibility of connection? We become enmeshed in this language mess, and yet it's the only way I can reach you. This weary warble, the low yawn of the somnambulist waking the forest. So I had a great moment my second day here where I thought to myself, man, I would love a ginger ale. And I saw that the 7-Eleven was 2 blocks away. And I was like, this is an easy distance. I can make it. Mind you, Fareed Matuk here had already warned me really, against venturing out in the heat. And I was like, I'm from the valley, I can handle it. It's gonna be fine. I made it about a block. And then I texted Fareed. I was like, you live like this? You all live like this? I'm very grateful for the heat. Makes the brain work differently. And I'm gonna get to some new stuff, but before I do, I'm gonna read you some of Desgraciado, the collected letters. And this is a book that came out last year, and this is a book that I wrote like it would be the last book I ever wrote. I threw everything into this book. I threw my life into this book. I broke my life into this book. This book had to happen or I wouldn't be here. And this is a series of love letters written to a Spanish friar by the name of Diego de Landa, who on July 12, 1562, attempted to eradicate the Yucatec Maya language on a platform in Mana, Yucatan, in which he demanded hundreds, if not thousands, of codices be burned on that platform, along with hundreds of idols and the desecrated bodies of my ancestors. He would go on to stand trial against the Crown of Spain. He didn't fill out the right paperwork to be using inquisitional tactics. That's not a joke. That's really what happened. Bishop Toral sent him back to Spain, and he won that trial. He won that trial, and he came back to the Yucatan with a promotion and wrote a text called Relación de Cosas Pasado en el Yucatán, which is often treated as the foremost pre-Spanish contact text for the Yucatec Maya people, and you can see why that's maybe a little problematic. And this book actually started because of the great Fareed Matuk and Susan Briante. I took a workshop with them at Naropa University's summer writing program and was presented with a prompt that would change my life. Write a love letter to your worst enemy. I could think of no worse enemy than Diego de Landa. And I spent the next 7 years writing to him. So here's some of these love letters. Dear Diego, I want revenge. I don't know how else to put it. I don't want anything back. I want something new, a newness from the ruin. I desire the death of my enemies, enemies like the wars of the 80s, the 90s, the housing market crash, the banks, the bankers, the war itself. I keep telling people that I know I won't see these empires of capitalism and white supremacy crumble in my lifetime, but in the dead of night, I keep writing these little flower pots plump with bombs of luminous memory. I try and connect other wires across the synapse, seeking out an alleyway escape. Over the wall in one motion, 50 cinder blocks high, I keep trying to imbue these poems with schematics of a different future. I keep trying to explain that bricks bounce, but with enough force, a cinder block won't. Sugar in the gas tank to break their transit down. I'll be honest with you, Diego. I want more than just revenge. I understand revenge is just one elemental dimension of what comes next. I know that ultimately there are things more important than revenge, like liberation, education as liberation. It's more than knowing how to use a tool or two. It's the whole damn bag. It's a constant exchanging of tools. It's a constant reassessment and recalibration of yourself, your tools. It's understanding that you can be wrong. It's knowing that ultimately you are both insignificant and the whole entire world, all at once, everything and nothing. It's more than just you. Liberation is a constant process. Liberation is a perpetual trial and error. It's not any one thing. There is no end point. And maybe that's the point. There is no point at which a thing ends necessarily. It's a matter of knowing that thing is dealt with and discussed. I will never write enough letters or poems to cure the world of its ailments, and still I write. Still I remember, still I choose to work against the face of constant death, this empire of misery and dust. I know that I am but one pen, one poet, one person, one, and yet I contain multitudes. I am every highway I have ever wandered, weary or wired. I am 10,000 hours and then some. I am the aching mountain of haunted earth. I am the architectures of cellular memory, the overly antsy, the sick with feelings. I am the ocean of right now. I can't help but throw this whole body of flesh and language at the threshold of history and all of temporality. I have to try. All I have ever wanted was to be alive. And then I learned it's more than that. I, idiot-tongued manifestation of reckoning, named after a song, self-made seraphim of the Middle Passage, marred by the many manifestations of living in this reality of thought and matter and wave, living beyond revenge, living long enough to see one's enemies fall. That's the real dream. Narrating the remembering, recording the recall, sealing the synapse, understanding the subject, and not being swayed by it. Staying with the endless madness of the mess, staying mad, remaining vigilant until everyone is free. And this is the poem that started it all, back there on the spine of the continent. Diego, you dead man, I write to you. It's been centuries, I'm sure, since someone called out to you, but now I do. Diego de Landa. The year is 2023, and the calendar's been reset. Your story buried beneath your auto de fe, burning our bodies down. We've no one to rescue that sound, but what am I saying? I speak English into robots and write to you in anything but Spanish, lengua catalan. I wanted you to know I've touched your soil, and throughout Madrid and Barcelona, I carved large red letters in churches and chapels. I painted Mayan conquest on subways and buses, wrote "fuck Spain" over every flag I could find. I started small fires in museums and stopped short of smashing mirrors and windows, and I can't erase you now. There's too much to wipe out on data disks and clouds, and fire couldn't find you now. Perhaps you'll drown. Perhaps I'll pull you through cenotes on my gringo tongue. Rinse your lungs clean with Xibalba water. What would you have to say then? Could your heart be pure? I'd have to taste test the ash of your organs. I'd have to fiddle with your bones to be certain I could trust you to go on dying, unacquitted by the light of time. See, I want your trial to continue, and maybe I want to save you. Love, A. I might read another letter or two if that's okay with y'all. Just kidding, you have no choice. Dear Diego, tell me what you know of stars. Tell me what you know of living. Tell me what you believe in your heart to be the truth. Do you think about us when you're lonely? Do you know what it means to be lonely in every language you speak? Do you know what it means to be lonely in tongues that have vanished or been burned away before you could speak? Do you know how many conquistadors it takes to ruin my day? Do you know how many Bibles I have owned and lost and kept and thrown out? Do you know how many churches and citadels I've wept and pissed in? Do you know how many I've seen baptized? Do you know how many prayers I speak? Do you know what it is you've done to me? Tell me what you know of departure. Tell me what you know of ruin. Tell me what you really mean. Do you know how many times have passed since your time? Do you know how many colonizers it takes to ruin my day? Do you know how many have died? Do you know how to get to heaven? Do you know the road to El Dorado? Do you have any change? Do you have a chance? Do you speak American? Do you hide your heart like a reef? Do you dream of many dreams? Do you recognize the pain in my childhood screams? Do you want to be the parent? Do you want to hold these shuddering shoulders until the earthquake hits? Do you know how to save a life? Do you know how to write? Do you know what time it is? Do you know how to come back home? Do you know what this is anymore? Tell me the truth. Tell me everything about you. Tell me why you did it. Tell me why you didn't. Tell me everything. Do you remember? Do you think about the downfall? Do you think about the darkness? Do you think about the blood? Do you think about the sun? Do you think about the ripples across reality? Do you think about the way out? Do you think about my eyes? Do you think about the sky? Do you think about the violence? Do you think about the heat? Do you think about the boat? Do you think about the screams? Do you think about the lies? Do you think about the water? Do you dream about me? Do you even care? Do you want to make it better? Do you want to make it out alive? Do you want to be alive? Do you care if I die? Do you care if we all die? Do you? Tell me what you know about the end. Tell me what you know about oblivion. Tell me what you know about the truth beyond you. Tell me what you know of the moon. Tell me you love me. Please. Diego, I only dream of learning to pronounce myself clearly. And not to give it away, but I'm going to read you the last letter in this book. Dear Diego, we finally have it out on the floor of the cosmos. Exhausted by the swirl, unable to exhaust without a sense of linear time, we are coexistent in every iteration of the multiverse, splintering along with each syllable, learning how the sound haunts the space, how the center haunts the frame. Mischievous little moments keep piling themselves into a certainty where I must confront the ways I have failed to protect that which means most to me. Our time together in these sentences, the way you made me think, we shrink the space-time between us. I'm basically texting you, hoping you're up and in a space where you can receive this transmission, trying to transmit the light of the moon, the length of the highway, the heart of the lowlands, the distance from me to you. Within the heart that beats while absorbing these symbols exists a set of multiplexing portals. Hold fast to that present moment that divides this reality from that reality, and let yourself see what's really there under it, the way the energies of everything you've ever seen or been collect into the cenote of your life. What portal will you become beyond your mortality? What does it mean that you're my portal to everything, Diego? Is this how you repent? Patron saint of ancestral oppression, blessed, blasphemous beast of 1,000 sins, burden of burdens, love of my life. Whatever would I do without you, Diego? I wouldn't exist. I wouldn't be writing this. And you know what? You could keep it. Would gladly trade you 2,000 years, plus to sleep at the bottom of the Atlantic. Would that none of you survive that first voyage back to Spain, a kraken, a cursed triangle, a rogue pod of mermaids, anything. And yet you're here, ignoring my letters, refusing to be anything but pain, no matter how much you tell me it's love. And it turns out I lied to you. That was not the last letter. See, I do this thing when I give readings where I try to let the book drive, you know? I always say that the writing knows more than us. And I wholeheartedly believe that. I follow the pen. I follow the energy. I'm just listening. And I'm making sure this is actually the last letter. Dear Diego, in my dreams, we finally find a way to get together and drive to the ocean. We bring everything we need. We discuss the constellations of streetlights and neon signs, the boats and books that create these circuitous archives of association. I teach you to roll a joint, and you break the Bible down, while the waves explain the infinite universe. I show you the ways I've learned to reverse death, or you teach me how to talk to the living. We write poetry together in these meetings. They happen at the lip of the continent, every night, at the edge of my dreams. Between this body and what lies beyond this place, we dance while oscillating gravity. We make many moons. I play you all these songs I keep writing but can't record. You forgive me for my dark days of sinning, and I forgive you for thinking it could be that simple. We talk about healing, with you speaking of a wound and a lamb, and I try to explain the many wounds of colonization. The ocean punctures our every sentence with infinity. The inky black midnight melts ocean to heaven. We swig heavy-handed from the void. I tell you about the many deaths I've died and my many afterlives. You tell me about the limits of man, the myth of maturity. We talk so long our words start to spill out like sand and the sun never comes up again. We keep drinking from the void. I tell you how I'm scared of dying. How deep down I keep forgetting about my body. How I can only see myself in words. You tell me about your lack of body. The empty freedoms of purgatory. We become synonyms for one another. We talk so long, lightning strikes twice, and we become glass on the last of the coastline. The moon looks upon us, polishing our dreams into something resembling a mirror, only more luminous. We talk until the ocean takes the mountains, until the fire and the flood pass, and everything grows quiet again. We speak in silence, back and forth, forming a Mobius strip of information. Dharma, back and forth. Dharma, forever exclaiming, expounding, and examining the self of no self, the mirror archive of eternity, the space between us, the time before you set foot on that first boat out of Spain, the time before we both become buried by the sand of our words, all while adorning the ineffable, this elastic eternity of sound and fury signifying nothing, a warm and empty nothing, and eventually We talk back and forth so long, the ocean begins to sink. We speak new tongues of water and wave. We keep talking through the mess of masculinities and colonization. We keep learning. Eventually, we develop into a language of clouds. Now we learn rain. We learn the many realities of water. We drift, lonely as a cloud, combining molecules until there is a consciousness alive in the atmosphere, an awareness of learning and relearning, this commitment to sincerity we've always had. It continues to warm the language we're making. We talk so long, we invent the word eon, and you add an S, and I laugh in eternity. We never stop talking long enough to figure anything out. We let the language grow and morph into what is needed. We dream long enough to sleep in the deepest of sleeps, the sleeps of dreams, and it's there that we finally find each other, Diego. It's there that we can rest, in the heart of the process, in the seat of the ongoing, forever learning, untangling, rebraiding, adorning the infinite in the language of our own making. And I have this dream where eventually it's very hot. And I think I have time for new stuff, yeah? Okay, great. So I want to read y'all a bunch of new things, more new things than I have time for, honestly, but most importantly, last night I thought to myself that I would take it extra easy. I'd go back to the apartment, I would go to sleep early, get some rest, really prepare for today. And then the moon called out to me and said, "The fuck you are. Get out here." And then I went walking until 3 in the morning, and I walked 5 miles. And when I got back, I had to take some dictation from the moon. And so this is called Moon Talk. And this was written last night. Up past midnight every night, giving in to the work, giving in to the moon, giving in to that which beckons. After all, what else is this time for? What else would you have me do with time and space? I might just rally a comeback strong enough to convince the moon to monsoon in the vast expanse of living heat. I may be beat up and worn down, but I am not beaten and far from worn out. I'm still all the way out here, still down, still throwing putazos against the state, still an enemy of the state, still writing poems, still I live this big, beautiful life I've had to fight every day for. Still digging trenches on the page, trying to bring you some sort of refuge or respite from the fascist pyramid scheme. These gnats of flat names need not be feared any more than a hangover. This too shall pass. I'm taking dictation direct from the moon, live from the desert, life from the floor of the most tender revenge, live from the bottom of everything and nothing. There is still no giving up. Give it all but up. This is a stick up. Empty that consciousness. Let it all go. Let yourself hold nothing back. Break diamond, hold the night sky in the crook of your heart until you remember what it means to continue and become flowers. I had the great honor of holding a poetry workshop here, and I am so grateful for that time and space, and I wanted to share a poem that came out of it. It's called "What Does the Future Sing to You in Dreams?" The future sings, "Still here." The future sings, "All the demons are dead." The future sings, "Cloud net full of trees." The future sings, "I remember you, dearest one." The future sings, "There is still poetry." The future sings, "We never gave up." The future sings, "You never gave up." The future sings, and sings and sings and sings, long into the night of eternity. That's it. And I kind of want to do something fun with all of you. So in organizing, you don't always have a lovely podium and a lovely microphone to be able to communicate with your community. And so we have what's called mic check. Is anyone familiar with mic check? So when I say mic check, I want all of you to repeat back after me, mic check. Sound good? Okay, mic check? Mic check. That's right. Okay, great. So welcome to being an organizer, and I hope you will dismantle the fascist state with me. But before we get there, I hope you will read this poem with me. So, mic check. The last billionaire died today. No one could hear that last breath over the sound of everyone eating. Thank you. Love that one. It's one of my favorite poems. It's new. It's not out yet. Okay. Got another fun one. This one's called Every Day the President Ignores a Sign from God. The president puts a hand upon the shoulder of God and whispers, "You don't understand. We are the good guys." Are we? All right. And I've got a few more if that's okay with y'all. So these are from an as of yet unpublished manuscript that's called Don't Tell My Mother If They Kill Me, and it's poems against fascism. This is called The Citadel of Capital is Another Prison. Dear family, reversing polarities is not victory. Nobody is free until everybody is free. Thank you. It's going to be a series of short poems. This one is dedicated to my siblings. I'm the oldest of 5, and I wrote this poem for Gustavo, Olivia, Alejandro, and also Daniel, but he's very small, so he doesn't need to know that he's not actually included. It's fine. For the fam. We throw hands like concrete blocks through car windows on midnight, always soaring through the city, sparring with buildings, seeing who flinches first. And I feel like I can't just tell you the title of the manuscript without reading you there's a series of poems that are called Don't Tell My Mother If They Kill Me. And this is number 2. Tell my mom I hit the avalanche with both hands. I swept up the sawdust of old white men up to my abdomen, and I made them listen to those who are actually losing their lives. I didn't let them insert some woe-begone BS into a conversation that extends beyond a nation or a tongue or a continent. You tell my mom I ran for the safety song of the forever nomad. I swept up in the rubble of our oppressor. I never stayed still enough to be found out or taken down. Hell, I ran right up close enough to take that awful flag out of the moon. That mirror belongs to everyone, especially to water, especially to light. You tell my mom I made myself strong in a set of sentences, swept up all the sorrow and suffering I had soaked up from countless lifetimes, outlining the architecture to create a cathedral, epicenter, swaying with the don't let capitalism kill me blues. I wove 13 tidal waves just to sound out something like free. Let her think I am free. Let her know what that means. Let me know what that means too, because I still don't understand. You tell my mom I made it out, scratched off my 3 dots and left loco out west into the Pacific. I turned sunfish, I swam for centuries, learned to cope with myself, gave up oxygen for cool compression. It's always water, it's always darkness, because now I eat the light. I am the sun. All right, and I've just got a couple more, and then you're free. This is called Ode to the Lesser Flowers. For years, I tried to write a poem called Ode to the Lesser Flowers, until finally I realized there are no lesser flowers, only flowers and flowers and flowers and flowers and flowers. This poem is dedicated to the braceros who were sprayed with pesticides when they entered into this country to work. This poem is called When They Spray Us with Pesticides. Now there is a porta potty. Now there is a bus with a roof. We are dreaming of resting, working nightmares because without the work we will die. And I thought to myself the other day, I wish someone would pay me to live. We are at the end of a very long dystopian novel that's been happening for a few thousand years, and yet I deserve to be human. It's like they think I don't know that. They being the colonizer, they being the fascists, they being the state. All right, and I've got just one more. Yeah. This is called Let's Stay Alive, after and for Fareed Matuk. Somebody needs to be making cafecito at midnight while the future sleeps. Somebody needs to be the first and the last one on the dance floor. Somebody needs to hang on to this planet long enough to remember. After all, fool, what are you even doing with that big, beautiful life? Let's ransack the corpse of empire, take tools, pocket the tongues, grieve the land, aching before everyone, decentralize and dismantle from within the warped landscapes of language. Let's stay velvet, thieving things like time, energy, repose. Let's learn how to bring those cenotes back to the community. Para siempre. Thank you, Tucson. And by the way, I read from the copies at the library because I wanted to charge them with this night. So if you ever pick these up, I hope you feel this moment forever. Thank you.
There are lots of copies of Desgraciado available in many places, so I hope you'll find that book. Promise me you'll find that book. And thanks so much for helping us welcome Angel Dominguez to Tucson again. And one more round of applause, please, for Angel. Yeah. Hope to see you at some of the upcoming events. There's some information about it around the corner, again, on this wall right here, and then there's a way to sign up for the newsletter. So thanks again, everybody. We'll see you again soon. Take care.